Alright guys, so I've moved myself over to the wall. So what you want to focus on here is you don't want your foot to be up against the wall or your toe to be up against the wall here. You want to have it separated or a little bit away from the wall. It doesn't have to be super far. I have maybe like 1.5 inches here of distance between my toe and the wall. And what we're going to do is we're just going to work on pushing this mobility a little bit, doing it manually ourselves. So we're going to try to push our knee into this wall, just like this. And I want you to focus on keeping this whole foot flat. So you should be able to feel maybe a little bit of a stretch here, and it might feel a little bit tight here. But again, we're just working on getting through that mobility, going back to the start and pushing it forward. So again, depending on where your mobility is, you may need to start closer to the wall. So if that's too far for you, go ahead and scoot a little bit closer to make it easier. Now again, if this is pretty easy for you, then you can move a little bit further away from the wall, but we're just pushing that knee into the wall, making sure the foot stays flat the entire time. Feeling this stretch in the calf muscles, and it might feel a little tight here as well. Just going back and forth, trying to work on that mobility, getting it through full range of motion. And we want to make sure that we do this on both ankles here, so finishing out this last one here on this side. All right, so go ahead and switch to the other one. So again, depending on where your mobility is going to be how far the distance is away from the wall. So you're just pressing that knee into the wall so that it's lightly tapping the wall. You're holding it here to feel that stretch. Then you're going back to the start. As this gets easier, you can go ahead and scoot your foot a little bit further back each time, but just make sure that foot stays completely flat the entire time on the ground. That's the important key here through this range of motion. So again, last exercise here for that ankle mobility. Just trying to get it a little bit further each time. This should not be painful. It might feel a little bit uncomfortable, but again, it should not be painful at all. All right, we'll go ahead and get one more on this side. All right, I'm gonna pause this video. All right guys, so I've moved back away from the wall here. We're moving our way up now to our knee mobility. More of a strengthening thing here. So this is where you need that step. Doesn't need to be very high. This one's just a riser that we would use for group exercise class. So maybe a book or something that is sturdy enough for you to stand on, but again, is not super far off the ground. So first thing you want to do here is have your foot standing on the edge or the side of whatever you're stepping on. And then you're going to be doing heel touchdowns essentially here. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to tap your heel against the ground. And when you do this, you want to tap that right behind that stable foot that is on the step. So you're going to be tapping that heel, bending that front knee. Now when you bend this front knee to go down, I want to make sure that you are staying knee in line with your ankle. We really want to make sure that it's not falling inward. We want to make sure we're pressing it out the entire time. So again, this is going to strengthen the areas for knees. So we're just going down, tapping that heel and standing it upright. So again, the lower your step is, this is going to be a little bit easier for you. The higher your step, the more challenging it's going to be. So we're just sitting down into that little squat, keeping my knee in line with my ankle. I'm pressing it out so it doesn't fall inward. And I'm just tapping that heel back behind me. So again, this is more of a strengthening exercise here for your knee rather than mobility. But these are heel touchdowns, just tapping and standing up. So once we've done it on that side, we want to make sure we go to the opposite side. So again, standing on the edge of that surface, bending that knee just enough to tap your heel back behind you. And you're making sure this knee is not falling in, it's staying exactly where it's supposed to be, even pressed out just a little bit. So standing upright in between each one. Smaller your step, the easier it's going to be, but that's a great starting point before moving it up to something a little bit higher. just strengthening those muscles for the knee to help it as it goes through full range of motion for other activities. So doing our heel touchdowns. All right, we're going to do one more set on each side. So we're going to try to get 10 reps this time. Again, you could do this up to 3 times, but we're just going to do 2 here for today. So I've switched to that first foot. I'm tapping down that heel, and I'm standing it all the way back upright. Tapping that heel again back behind my stationary leg, and I'm making sure that knee stays in line with my ankle, making sure that knee does not fall inward at all. It's always being pressed out. So we're just getting 10 reps here on each side to finish out this second round. And again, you can always pause this video and do another round if you would like. But these are just a great exercise to include to help with that knee pain and just strengthening. Tapping that heel, trying not to put any weight on that heel, just tapping and standing it back up. So just getting 10 more now on this side to finish it out. I think I've got one left here. All right, so that is part of our knee mobility and strengthening. We're going to continue moving up now into our hips. So first thing we're going to do here is our 90-90. So we're going to sit here, have our front leg straight out from us, knee bent at 90 degrees. Our back leg is out to the side here at 90 degrees. And we're just going to hold this position here and slowly rotate to face the back. So what you want to do here is you want to keep this front leg against the ground as long as you can as you start to rotate towards the back. So your first movement here is to lift that back knee off the ground, always keeping your feet, whether it's the front or the back, feet are on the ground. So again, first movement here, I'm raising that back knee as high as I can. I'm getting it to a point where now I have to move my front leg. It's starting to join that motion, and now I'm flipped all the way to the back side, still with that 90-degree angle in the front and to the side. Hold this here for a good deep breath or 2, and then I'm going to return back to the front, moving my back leg first, and my front leg then follows when I cannot keep it down any longer. Again, back to that front position. So once you get to those positions, whether it's in the front or the back, you really want to try to keep hips and shoulders squared off. I know it's hard, readjust if you need to, but we're just going to keep on rotating front to back here, working on that hip mobility, holding it just for a good deep breath or 2 before moving it back to the opposite direction. So going through these 90-90 switches, working on that rotation, keeping that front leg down for as long as you can, always moving the back leg first, feet staying on the ground the entire time. Hopefully as you go through this, you should be able to keep that front leg down just a little bit longer each time around. We're going to do one more switch front and back, and then we are going to switch it up and put the other leg in front. All right, so we're going to do that same stretch now, but that leg that was out to the side is now going to be our front leg, and our front leg is now my side leg. So we're going to do that same thing, but just rotating opposite direction, keeping that front leg down for as long as I can before I have to rotate all the way to the back side, squaring off my shoulders and my hips, and then returning back to that start position. Just rotating through this one. Go back and forth here. Hold that position, square off your hips for a good deep breath, maybe 2, before rotating back to the other side. Working on our hip mobility here. We're going to go ahead and do one more front and back switch. laying down on our backs, going through our hip cars movement. So we're going to be laying down on our backs here. You're going to raise one leg up here to 90 degrees. You're going to open up that leg as far as you can and bring it around in a circle back to that start position. So again, as you're opening up that leg, you're doing that, you are controlling that motion. You're not allowing it to just fall. You're being in control and intentional through this movement. And I want you to go as far as you can with this movement. So hopefully as you go through this, you should be able to go a little bit deeper, open up a little bit wider. And then just pulling that leg back around. So go ahead, do one more here. And we're going to switch it to the opposite direction. So we're going to start with opening our leg up to the side, closing it back to that 90-degree angle, bringing it down. So again, going through the side motion, closing the door here, back to the start position. So same movement pattern again, but we're just going that opposite direction. You're really using those muscles to control this movement. And you're going as far as you can through that circle each time. So trying to keep the other part of your body nice and flat as you go through this. Go through it one more time, and then we're going to switch it to the opposite foot or opposite leg. All right, so same motion, starting bringing it up and opening it up as far as you can and bringing it back around. So again, you're resisting gravity here and letting your muscles control that opening movement when you allow your leg to drop. Trying to go as far through this movement as you can. So trying to go a little bit further each time in this movement, keeping the other half of your body flat against the ground. Trying not to compensate at all for your range of motion. Last time through this direction. Go ahead, switch it opposite direction. You're opening it up to the side first, bringing it and closing it back to the start. So again, you're controlling this entire motion, trying to go through as far as you can. Awesome job here. Being intentional, focusing on that movement, using your muscles to open and close that leg. All right, we're going to go ahead here and get one last one. All right. So go ahead, sit it up here, going into our last hip mobility exercise. We're going to sit down like a frog here. So we're going to sit down, grab those ankles, going as low as we can, trying to keep those feet flat on the ground here. And then once you're here, I want you to reach across and open up. Again, reaching across, opening up. So segueing in here to our spine mobility, still trying to keep those feet open for your frog sit, opening up, trying to deepen that mobility. Switching it to the opposite side. If you can't reach across, you're just putting that hand straight down and opening it up. So just keep alternating back and forth here. Doing one more on each side. So going now into our spine. So again, we're just continuing up through the joints. Our first one is going to be spinal twist. So you're going to be laying down on your back, hands out to the side, and you're just going to allow those legs to slowly go to one side, keeping shoulder blades against the ground. You should be able to feel this stretch in the lower back. Raising those legs back through the start position and going all the way to the other side. Again, you're not allowing your legs to fall. They're just going through that range of motion. You're controlling it, bringing it down as far as you can, just alternating here back and forth. Breathing through this, keeping shoulders both but we're going to be laying to our sides or on our sides, have our arms straight out in front of us. My legs are going to be stacked here, and we're going to do page openers. So my arms are stacked on top of each other, and I'm just going to open up that top arm so that I reach all the way to the other side. The goal here is to get that other hand, the back of the hand, to the floor. And I'm going to close the book. So we're just going back and forth here, opening and closing, going as far as your range of motion allows. If you can't get to the floor, that's all right. Just hold that furthest position before returning back to the start. So before we were working more of that lower back spine, and now we are working more of the upper part of our spine here with our book openers or page openers, whatever you want to call them. All right, so go ahead and get one more here on this side, and then we're going to switch it to the opposite side. So again, only thing moving is your upper body, is that arm. Everything else is staying still. So go ahead, switch to laying over to your other side. So again, feet are going to be stacked here, arms are stacked laying on top of that bottom arm, and then just opening it up, hoping to get to the floor on the other side. But if not, you're stopping at that furthest range that you can get to. Lower body stays completely still. Only thing moving is opening up that arm for the upper body. Working more on the T-spine here than that lower back. This should be controlled. It should not be painful. You're just opening up as far as your body allows and going back to that closed start position. All right, after this, we're going to go ahead and get one more on this side to finish out this exercise. Alright, so go ahead, sit it up here. Last spine exercise, we're going to do cat-cows. So we were doing more of the twisting, opening up. So this time now we're going to be doing more flexion extension with our spine. So on hands and knees here, decreasing that slight arch in your back here, and then inhaling and rounding it, curving that back for the flexion, exhaling, extending, just a slight arch with your spine. So we're just going to keep going, alternating in between these two. Going back and forth, rounding to having a slight arch in the back. Trying to get through this full range of motion and fully rounding that back. All right, last one here. All right, gonna pause this video here and we're gonna move towards the wall now for our shoulder exercises. All right guys, so back into it here, moving up to our shoulder joint. We're gonna be starting out with our arm circles against the wall. So remember on this, the closer you are to the wall, the harder it is, more range of motion you have to go through. Further away from the wall, it's not gonna be as hard because you're not going through as much range of motion. So find a spot that works for you to start out with. And we're gonna make sure that we start with our palm against the wall. It's in front of us. We're going to draw that circle all the way until it's up overhead. Once it gets here, we're switching that so now that the back of our hand is against the wall, going through that range of motion. As it passes back through, switching your palm to the front. And again, we're just going through this range of motion here. Making sure we rotate if our palm or the back of our hand is facing the wall. Again, the closer you are to the wall, the harder it's going to be. You have a lot more range of motion to go through. So start out at a good spot that you're able to go through this motion. Oops, just drawing a circle here. Back of the hand is facing the wall as it's behind you. Palm is facing the wall as it is in front of you. All right, go ahead, reverse direction here. Starting back behind, as you bring it back in front, that palm comes towards the front or is facing the wall. Again, you're in control of this motion. you are just going through that circle, switching palm to front and back the hand in the back. Go ahead and get one more circle here. Doesn't need to be very fast. You're going at your own pace. We're going to go ahead and switch it to the opposite side here. So starting with it out in front of you, palm is facing the wall. As it comes up and overhead, you're going to switch it so the back of your hand is against the wall and you're still going through that full range of motion, switching which position your hand is in, dependent on where you were at in your circle. So again, these movements aren't fast, they're controlled the entire time. The further you are away from the wall, the less range of motion you have to go through. So that might be a better starting point for you. Depends on your range of motion. Go ahead and get one more circle in this direction. And we're going to do the same thing now, going opposite direction. So we're starting out back behind us, making sure the back of the hand is against the wall as we start. Once it comes up in front of us, we then rotate our hand so that the palm is facing the wall. So we're just alternating back and forth. When it comes up in front, palm faces the wall. When it comes back behind, back of the hand is up against the wall. We're just brushing and running our hand against the wall. We're not using it to help us through this range of motion. Control. One more round here. Finishing out this last circle. Alright, next exercise here. We're going to be up against the wall. You might have to squat down just a little bit. You're going to try to get as much of your arms against the wall. So whether that be the back of the hand, forearms to the elbow, and then making sure this part is up against as well. And you're just going to slide your arms all the way up overhead and bring them back down. So we're just going through these wall slides. It's a lot harder than you think to try to keep them up against the wall. So just going until your range of motion stops. So if it stops here, that's okay, just bring it straight back down. But remember, we're trying to keep the entire arm up against the wall as we slide. If you're not able to do that, get it as close as you can and slide it all the way up as far as you can and all the way down. So again, those are modifications, only going up as far as your range of motion allows you. And again, trying to stay up against the wall, but if not, staying as close as you can to the wall as you move through this range of motion. So stopping right about here at that goal post, all the way up. So nice and controlled. Whew, my shoulder's getting tired. All right, here we go. Back up. Again, if you need to shake it out, go ahead and do so. We're just going to do a couple more wall slides here to finish out our shoulder. And then we're going to be moving to that scapula. So that is also another joint. It helps with the shoulder, but it also has its own movement. All right, last one here, wall slide. And bring it back down. All right, I'm going to pause this video. We're going to go back to the ground for scapula. All right, guys, so to our last joint here, going to go through our scapula movement. So what we're going to do here is start out hands and knees. So what I want you to do here is to practice retraction and protraction. So those are the movements your scapula goes through. So we're going to go through those. So retraction is going to be sinking into your shoulders here. So my shoulders haven't moved, I've just sunk in. So I'm, in a way, pushing my shoulder blades towards each other. So again, this is a weird movement at first, but I want you to try to go through this and to sink in. Your shoulders are not moving. You're just allowing yourself to fall inward, and your shoulder blades should go and pinch towards each other. So we're practicing our movements here, just sinking in for that retraction. Going back to the start, allowing that body to sink in. So again, this is a weird movement at first. A lot of people try to move their shoulders with it, but again, your shoulders stay still and you're just falling in. This took a long time for me to figure out, so don't worry if you're not able to get this movement. That's pretty common actually. So again, we're just practicing it here, allowing ourselves to sink and trying not to move those shoulders. So I'm not sure if you can see it better from this view, but again, I'm just sinking down. My shoulders haven't moved. My shoulder blades though are kind of coming in towards each other. All right, so that was our retraction, protraction here. We are still hands and knees, but we're just rounding that back so that we can feel those shoulder blades start to go like this. So we're just hands and knees, rounding that back a little bit so that we can feel that roundedness. So this one usually is a little bit easier for people to figure out. Again, my shoulders though aren't really moving. I'm thinking about pulling my shoulders apart from each other to get to this movement. So you should be able to feel your shoulders stay still and those shoulder blades to move. So think about taking a deep breath and then pulling those shoulders apart from each other to round your back. So again, from the side view, my shoulders aren't really moving. My spine really isn't moving, but you can see that I'm starting to round my back, and that is caused from my shoulder blades pulling apart from each other from protraction. All right, so last thing with scapular movement here, we're gonna be laying on the ground. We're gonna be doing swimmers here. So you're gonna start with your arms out in front of you. You're going to go as far as you can through this range of motion. I'll show you as far as I can go. I can't go all the way here, but I'll show you as far as I can go. So you're gonna raise up, you're gonna swim around to the side, and you're going to turn those palms down, or palms go up to the sky, back of the hand goes down, and you're going to try to bring them up and up to your scapula. So the goal here, I can only do it with one arm at a time, is to bring it up all the way so that it looks like this on your back with both arms. So like I said, I'm not able to do that. I'm just gonna go through as far as I can, and that's all that I expect you to go through. So you're just going to go through that motion as far as you can, hopefully getting a little bit further each time to finish out our scapular rotations here. All right, go ahead and get one more here. All right, and rest. All right, guys, so we went through all of our joints. So what we're going to be doing next is our balance. So for this, ways you can make it harder is to be barefoot, to stand on a soft surface. Ways to make it a little bit easier, making sure you wear shoes, standing on a hard surface. Any of those combinations are going to switch it up, but we're going to be doing what is called a STAR excursion balance test. So we're going to be standing on one foot here, and we're going to be reaching out our opposite foot at about 45-degree increments all the way around our body, and we're just going to tap as we go out. So we're just tapping and reaching out as far as we can at those 45-degree increments. You can have a slight bend in that knee that is on the ground. At a point, you'll have to come back up in front. So we're just reaching out as far as we can here. I want you to go through this 2 times, 45-degree increments. So again, taking shoes off, being on a softer surface is going to make it harder. Wearing those shoes, being on a hard surface, makes it easier. So again, just trying to keep your balance as you reach out to each one. Once you've gone 2 times through, switch up which leg you're standing on. Same thing, 45-degree increments. You're just reaching and tapping out as far as you can here. Just going around the circle 2 times on each leg. If it's easier for you to put out a tape marking, a shoe, something for you to reach for, you can do that as well, or you can just use an imaginary object and reach as far as you can. go through that another time if you would like. But that's all we have for today. We did our dynamic warm-up. We made our way through our joints for mobility, and we ended it with balance. So thanks for joining me today for mobility and more, and I hope to see you again next week. And don't forget, everyone's journey is different, so own yours.